Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. This is the moment Genoa City has been hurtling toward for months, the breaking point where alliances shatter, secrets explode, and one man's hunger for justice, or revenge, forces another woman to choose between survival and total annihilation. Billy Abbott has reached the end of his rope, and in a cold, relentless move that leaves no room for mercy, he delivers a final, brutal ultimatum to Phyllis Summers: put Victor Newman behind bars, or lose everything you are, everything you've built, and everyone you love. There is no bluff in Billy's eyes when he corners Phyllis, no trace of the reckless charm he once wore like armor. What stands before her now is a man hardened by betrayal, rage, and loss, a man who believes Victor Newman has destroyed too many lives and must finally pay. Billy doesn't ask. He doesn't negotiate. He orders. And the weight of that command crushes Phyllis in ways even Victor's threats never have. Billy's fury didn't ignite overnight, it has been simmering, festering, fueled by every manipulation Victor orchestrated behind closed doors, every secret deal that burned the Abbotts while the Newmans walked away untouched. Billy knows Victor always wins because people are too afraid to finish the job, too compromised, too dependent on Newman power to push all the way. That's why Billy turns to Phyllis. She knows Victor's playbook. She's been inside his orbit, traded secrets, survived his games. And more importantly, she has proof, or at least access to it. Billy has uncovered fragments, hidden accounts, illegal surveillance, blackmail schemes tied to the AI program, evidence Victor buried so deep even the FBI missed it. But Billy doesn't have the final piece. Phyllis does. And Billy makes it terrifyingly clear that if she refuses to hand it over and help him destroy Victor once and for all, he will destroy her first. Phyllis tries to laugh it off at first, masking panic with sarcasm, but Billy doesn't flinch. He lays it all out with surgical precision: the witnesses she pressured, the digital trails she helped erase, the quiet favors Victor demanded in exchange for protection. Billy knows where the bodies are buried, and some of them, metaphorically speaking, have Phyllis's fingerprints all over them. He reminds her that Victor's protection has always been conditional, temporary, disposable. You think you're safe? Billy snaps. You think Victor won't sacrifice you the second it suits him? Then comes the knife twist. Billy reveals he already has contingency plans in motion, anonymous tips prepared, documents ready to be leaked, law enforcement contacts waiting for the green light. Phyllis realizes in that horrifying instant that Billy isn't threatening her future. He's threatening her present. The ultimatum is stark and merciless: deliver Victor Newman to prison, or Billy will make sure Phyllis is the one in handcuffs. There will be no deals, no rescue, no second chances. This is her last warning. As Billy storms out, leaving Phyllis shaking in the aftermath, the full scope of her dilemma crashes down on her. Victor Newman isn't just a powerful enemy, he's a nuclear one. Turning on him means inviting annihilation. Victor doesn't retaliate, he eradicates. He dismantles lives piece by piece, turning allies into enemies, rewriting histories, making sure his target is left isolated and ruined before the final blow even lands. Phyllis knows this better than anyone. She's watched Victor crush people who crossed him with far less at stake. And yet Billy's threat is just as real, just as deadly. For the first time in her life, Phyllis Summers realizes there is no winning move, only two different kinds of destruction. Desperate, Phyllis considers running, leaving Genoa City, disappearing before either man can strike. But she knows better. Victor would find her. Billy would hunt her. And running would only confirm her guilt. Instead, Phyllis does what she always does when cornered: she starts calculating. If she's going to burn, she wants to choose how the fire spreads. She begins quietly reopening old files, revisiting conversations she never thought she'd meet again, contacting sources she swore she'd never speak to. Every step is a risk. Every phone call could be intercepted. Every flash drive could be a death sentence. But Billy's words echo in her mind like a countdown clock: this is your last chance. Meanwhile, Billy isn't waiting around. He's mobilizing, pulling strings at Chancellor Winters, leaning on Jack for legal leverage, and quietly pressuring contacts in the DA's office. Jack is horrified when he learns how far Billy is willing to go, warning him that using Phyllis as a weapon could backfire catastrophically. But Billy is unmoved. In his mind, Victor crossed a line that can never be uncrossed. This isn't about corporate wars or family feuds anymore, it's about stopping a man who believes himself untouchable. Billy is convinced that if Victor goes down, Genoa City might finally breathe again. And if Phyllis gets crushed in the process? Billy tells himself that's collateral damage she invited the moment she aligned herself with Victor. Victor, of course, senses the shift in the air. He always does. Subtle signs, a delayed response, a nervous glance, a meeting that feels just a little too rehearsed, alert him that someone is moving against him. His suspicion lands on Billy almost immediately, but Victor doesn't underestimate Phyllis's role. He summons her, his tone deceptively calm, his questions carefully designed to probe without revealing his hand. Phyllis plays her part flawlessly, offering loyalty, outrage, even feigned concern for Victor's safety. But Victor watches her eyes, her hands, the micro-expressions she can't fully control. He sees fear. And Victor Newman never ignores fear. As pressure mounts, Phyllis realizes the walls are closing in faster than she anticipated. Victor is circling. Billy is escalating. And law enforcement is closer than ever to reopening cases Victor thought were dead and buried. Phyllis reaches a breaking point during a late-night confrontation with Billy, where she finally explodes, accusing him of using her as a pawn in his personal vendetta. Billy doesn't deny it. Instead, he delivers the cruelest truth of all: "You're already a pawn, Phyllis. Victor just pretends you're a queen." The words cut deeper than any threat. Because Phyllis knows they're true. With nowhere left to turn, Phyllis makes her choice. She gathers the evidence, the real evidence, the kind that doesn't just wound but kills reputations. Financial records tied to shell companies. Proof of illegal surveillance. Communications that directly link Victor to criminal coercion and obstruction of justice. This isn't rumor or speculation. This is prison-time material. As she prepares to hand it over, Phyllis hesitates, knowing that the moment she does, her life as she knows it is over. Victor will never forgive this. Billy will never fully trust her. And Genoa City will never see her the same way again. The handoff is explosive. When Billy realizes Phyllis actually followed through, his relief is quickly replaced by grim determination. There's no backing out now. He moves fast, ensuring the evidence reaches the right hands before Victor can bury it again. Arrest warrants are drafted. Investigations reopened. Victor's empire begins to tremble as whispers ripple through the city. Victor Newman might finally be going to prison. But this is Victor Newman. And he doesn't go quietly. As the walls close in, Victor launches countermeasures with terrifying efficiency. He threatens witnesses, freezes assets, and prepares to unleash his own devastating revelations, about Billy, about Phyllis, about anyone foolish enough to stand in his way. The battle becomes all-out war, with Phyllis trapped at the epicenter. She realizes too late that Billy's ultimatum wasn't just about justice, it was about forcing her to choose a side in a war that will leave no survivors untouched. In the end, the question isn't just whether Victor will go to prison. It's how much blood will be spilled before the cell door slams shut, and whether Billy Abbott, in his quest to destroy Victor Newman, has crossed a line he can never come back from. One thing is certain: mercy is gone, loyalty is dead, and Genoa City will never be the same again after Billy's final warning. The fallout begins not with sirens or handcuffs, but with silence, the kind that settles over Genoa City like a held breath, thick and suffocating, as everyone senses something monumental has shifted beneath their feet. Victor Newman wakes that morning knowing the game has changed. He doesn't need confirmation, doesn't need a phone call from a nervous lawyer or a whispered warning from a loyal fixer. He feels it in the way power no longer flows effortlessly toward him, in the way doors hesitate before opening, in the way fear around him has sharpened into something more dangerous: resolve. Somewhere, someone has crossed a line. And Victor is determined to find out who will bleed for it. Phyllis, meanwhile, is unraveling in slow motion. The moment she handed Billy the evidence, a part of her understood that there was no undoing what she'd done. No last-minute confession to Victor, no dramatic reversal, no miracle escape. She has stepped into a storm that will consume everything in its path, including her. She jumps at every sound, checks her phone obsessively, half expecting a message from Victor that says nothing and everything all at once. Each hour that passes without retaliation feels less like relief and more like the calm before an execution. She knows Victor's style. He doesn't strike in panic. He waits until his target believes they might survive. Then he destroys them completely. Billy, for his part, is running on adrenaline and obsession. Now that the evidence is in motion, he feels vindicated, even righteous, convinced that history will remember this as the moment someone finally had the courage to stop Victor Newman. But cracks are already forming in Billy's certainty. Jack warns him again that this path is poisoned, that dragging Phyllis into this could backfire spectacularly, that Victor always finds a way to twist justice into revenge. Billy listens, but only enough to nod. Deep down, he believes any cost is worth it if Victor ends up in a prison cell. What he refuses to confront is the growing possibility that Victor won't fall alone, and that Billy himself may be standing dangerously close to the edge. When the first subpoena hits Newman Enterprises, the shockwaves are immediate. Executives scramble. Lawyers flood the building. The board goes into emergency session. Victor walks into the chaos like a king surveying a battlefield, his expression unreadable, his voice calm as ice as he demands answers. He already knows the accusations: financial crimes, obstruction, illegal surveillance, but hearing them spoken aloud ignites a cold fury that eclipses even his legendary rage. Someone didn't just challenge him. Someone believed they could win. And that is unforgivable. Victor's investigation turns inward with terrifying speed. He retraces every move, every conversation, every favor owed and collected. It doesn't take long before the trail leads him to Phyllis. The realization isn't explosive, it's devastatingly quiet. A slow narrowing of the eyes. A pause that lasts just a second too long. Victor understands betrayal intimately, but Phyllis's cuts deeper because it's personal. He trusted her, never fully, but enough. He protected her. He shielded her from consequences that would have ended her career, her freedom, her life. And this is how she repays him. Victor doesn't confront her immediately. Instead, he sets a trap. Phyllis senses it almost too late. A meeting request that feels casual. A friendly intermediary suggesting Victor wants to clear the air. The rational part of her screams not to go, but refusing would be just as damning. So she walks into the lion's den, heart pounding, spine stiff with forced confidence. Victor greets her warmly, almost kindly, which terrifies her more than anger ever could. He talks about loyalty. About survival. About how people make mistakes when they're afraid. Each word is a test, each pause an invitation to confess. Phyllis doesn't. She can't. And Victor watches, cataloging every lie, every tremor, every flicker of guilt she fails to hide. When Victor finally speaks the truth, it lands like a death sentence. He doesn't accuse her outright. He simply tells her that he knows someone close to him has betrayed him, and that when he finds out who, he will make sure they live long enough to regret it. The message is clear. Phyllis leaves the meeting barely holding herself together, knowing she has been seen, marked, and condemned. At the same time, the legal net tightens. The DA's office moves faster than Victor anticipated, buoyed by the strength of the evidence and pressure from above. Arrest rumors swirl. The press catches wind. Allies begin to distance themselves, issuing carefully worded statements of concern and cooperation. Victor is furious, not because he's afraid of prison, but because he hates being cornered. He doesn't fear the law. He fears losing control of the narrative. And so Victor strikes back. The first blow lands on Billy. A carefully leaked dossier appears, outlining Billy's past recklessness, questionable financial decisions, and near misses with criminal liability. It doesn't prove guilt, but it plants doubt. Investors panic. Board members demand answers. Billy realizes too late that Victor isn't just defending himself, he's dismantling Billy's credibility piece by piece. Every interview Billy gives only fuels the fire, making him look unhinged, obsessed, unreliable. Victor wants the world to believe this entire crusade is nothing more than a vendetta by a bitter abbot who finally snapped. Phyllis is next. Anonymous tips resurface old scandals, dredging up every mistake she's ever made, every line she crossed, every bridge she burned. Her reputation collapses overnight. Friends stop calling. Doors close. Even people who know Victor's guilt hesitate to stand by her, afraid of being dragged down with her. Phyllis has never felt so alone. She realizes in horror that Billy's promise, that this would end with Victor in prison and justice restored, was naive at best, a lie at worst. Victor may still fall, but he will make sure Phyllis is destroyed first. As pressure builds, Billy confronts Phyllis again, demanding to know if she's still holding anything back. She explodes, unleashing weeks of terror and regret, screaming that she's paying the price while he plays hero. Billy is shaken, not enough to stop, but enough to see the human cost of his ultimatum. For the first time, doubt creeps in. Did he force Phyllis into this knowing she'd be sacrificed? Did he become exactly like Victor, using fear and leverage to get what he wanted? The answer doesn't come easily, and it doesn't come in time. When the warrant is finally issued for Victor Newman's arrest, Genoa City freezes. The unthinkable is happening. Cameras swarm. Protesters gather. Supporters and enemies alike watch as Victor is escorted from Newman Enterprises, his head held high, his glare promising retribution. Even in cuffs, Victor radiates power. He makes eye contact with Billy across the crowd, a silent vow passing between them, this isn't over. But the real reckoning comes later, behind closed doors, when Victor is granted a moment with his lawyers, and one with Phyllis. The confrontation is raw, brutal, and unforgettable. Victor doesn't yell. He doesn't threaten. He simply dissects her, reminding her of everything he gave her and everything she threw away. He tells her prison won't break him, but what's coming for her will. Phyllis tries to justify herself, to claim she had no choice, that Billy forced her hand. Victor's response is chilling, you always have a choice. You just chose wrong. As Victor is taken away, Phyllis collapses under the weight of what she's done. She got him arrested. She fulfilled Billy's ultimatum. But there is no victory, no triumph, only dread. Because she knows Victor Newman doesn't lose wars. He merely changes battlegrounds. Billy watches the fallout unfold, haunted by the realization that putting Victor behind bars didn't end the nightmare, it escalated it. Victor may be imprisoned, but his influence is alive, his allies still loyal, his vengeance already in motion. Billy wanted justice. What he unleashed is something far darker. Victor Newman's incarceration does not bring peace to Genoa City, it infects it with paranoia. The city doesn't exhale, it tightens. From the moment the steel door slams shut behind Victor, an invisible hand seems to keep squeezing, reminding everyone that prison walls have never truly contained him. Power, after all, is not a place. It's a mindset. And Victor Newman's is as sharp and ruthless as ever. Inside the correctional facility, Victor adapts with chilling efficiency. Guards straighten when he passes. Inmates give him space. He observes, calculates, and listens. Every conversation is data. Every interaction is leverage waiting to be exploited. His legal team works around the clock, filing motions, challenging evidence, probing for weaknesses in the case Billy helped ignite. Victor knows trials aren't won in courtrooms alone, they're won through pressure, intimidation, and psychological warfare. And even from behind bars, Victor Newman is still the most dangerous man in the room. Outside, the cost of Billy's crusade continues to mount. Abbott territory becomes a battlefield as investors waver and long-standing alliances fracture. Jack is forced into damage control, fighting fires Billy never anticipated. While Billy insists this is temporary chaos on the road to justice, Jack sees something else entirely, a war Billy is no longer fully controlling. Every headline ties the Abbott name to obsession and instability. Every whisper paints Billy as a man who couldn't let go, who sacrificed everyone around him to satisfy his need to defeat Victor. Jack confronts him again, this time without patience, warning that the family may not survive another Newman war. Billy listens in silence, haunted by the nagging realization that Jack might be right. Phyllis, meanwhile, is unraveling completely. Her world has shrunk to a series of locked doors and unanswered calls. Former allies avoid her in public. Old friends pretend not to see her. She moves through Genoa City like a ghost, hyper-aware of every glance, every shadow. Victor's voice echoes in her head, "You just chose wrong." The truth is unbearable, she didn't just betray Victor. She betrayed herself. Everything she once justified as survival now feels like cowardice dressed up as strategy. The pressure becomes unbearable when a federal investigator contacts Phyllis, requesting a follow-up interview.